Hey, what's up, everybody? This is take number two of our live show for today. For some reason, there's a technical glitch in Facebook, and it showed there that my live feed wasn't showing for some reason, for one reason to another or another. Hey, I'm glad that you're back here. I noticed earlier that we had a couple of viewers, then it was down to one, and that was just me. Okay, so hey, thank you for staying on and hanging in there. And let me know if you're here, guys. This is take number two for our topic for today, successful communication. Wow, this happens. Tech glitches happen. Hey, thanks, Fritzy, for being here and again, tagging your friends. And awesome. Yes. Thank you so much, guys. And I hope the others who, got lost in the earlier broadcast are going to be back. Okay, awesome. So, yes, let's move forward. Again, our fired up questions are: what do you think are the barriers to communication? How can we build an environment where people listen and understand each other? Right? Because often communication is the problem, and whether it's with your spouse, with your family members, with your workplace, or with your coworkers, I mean, or with the people you're serving in at church or in your barangay, right? It's always good to understand what communication is all about, and with your own awareness of these uh, communication techniques and communication barriers, then maybe, and of course definitely, you will be able to have an advantage because of your knowledge of this, right? So try to answer these questions. What do you think are the barriers to communication, and how can we build an environment where people listen and understand each other? Go ahead right there in the comments. And so we'll have a fired up discussion in a while, right? So the Fired Up Life Show is about getting you motivated and focused in pursuing your dreams and living out your faith. Yes, and we're zooming in on motivation for work and life. The Fired Up Life Show appears every TTH at 3 p.m. There you go. And we're part of this. We're still in the Passion 8 series that we're having here: 8 essential skills and behaviors for motivation, transformation, and growth. Yan, walo po. Because in my years of being a trainer, with having corporate clients, these are the in-demand skills that I've observed. Naturally, they asked from me, and I, of course, willingly gave it to them. Ayan, so nasa walo po. And then if you can have these 8 skills that I've been broadcasting here live every Tuesdays and Thursdays, then hey, you're gonna get fired up, and of course, you're gonna reach your goals in life. Let's go. Ayan, this show is powered by Fired Up Patrons. Once again, uh, go to patreon.com/fireduplife. And here you go. This is our framework for our Passionate series. We are now on number 7. If you've been through 1 to 6, good for you. But if you haven't seen the past shows, then of course you can just review, just scroll down and you'll see the broadcast there. Then there, no? So number 7, communication, and last is about service or customer service. All right. So I hope you're excited, guys, because I am excited to give this topic for today. And early on, I'd just like to share that you can download this PowerPoint that I'll be presenting at kirbilyaban.com/communication. No, so you'll be getting the PDF copy of the topic. So hey, if you're watching this for the first time, kindly type there in the comment section, first time. Ayan po, first time. Okay, so and if you do that, of course, I'll acknowledge you, and I'll welcome you as well. So if it's your first time here, I usually give freebies. No, hindi tayo nagdadamot sa ating mga modules, sa ating mga formation. Ayan, so you can have a copy of that PDF, ang version of PDF copy of the PowerPoint that I'll be presenting today. Okay, so let's get it on. Let's get started. It's about successful communication. How, let me make that bigger. How to overcome barriers to understanding each other. Ayan, applicable po to sa lahat ng aspeto ng ating buhay. Pati sa love life, applicable po. Ayan. So this is applicable for your family, for your work, and even your personal life. Ayan, no? The cause of breakups. Nagkaroon kami ng miscommunication. Okay. So how do we regain or strengthen our communication? No? So it's also a skill. Communication is a skill. And if you learn this, then we'll be able to benefit from it. There you go. So let me present to you a framework for communication. Of course, you have your message. May gusto kang sabihin either on Facebook or maybe to somebody or to the public. Ayan. Then you have a channel wherein you will send that message. No? So iba't ibang channel. Pwedeng video, it can be live show, it can be through messaging, texting, FB, ayan no, Instagram. There are different channels upon which we can bring out our message into the world. And of course, you have the receiver in mind. Sino ang makakatanggap ng mensahe na yan? Who is the one who's gonna get the news? Who's gonna be the one who gets the update, right? And of course, you get feedback as a way, so feedback can come in a way of likes, shares, comments, at least in the online world, but feedback can also come in a way of, people really directly telling you what he or she feels about the situation. And it goes back to the sender. So that's how the communication model is. It's very basic. A lot of us may already have encountered this, but it's a good reminder how things flow. So therefore, if it doesn't go back to the sender, it's not communication. It's just an announcement probably. No, it's just an announcement. It's just a one-way direction. One direction. Okay, so it has to go through a loop, and when that happens, no, communication is there. So pag wala yan, ayan, kulang po ang ating communication. We're not able to actually bring out the value that we want into the world, or maybe make an offer through our businesses, or maybe have an advocacy there. No? So we want to have that loop completed. And let's remember, first and foremost, uh, primarily, it's not about what you intended to communicate, but how the receiver processes the message. It's the outcome that counts. Madalas kasi when we communicate, we blame the receiver. Hindi niya kasi naiintindihan yung sinasabi ko. And when we do that, there is a loss of communication. There is a failure to communicate. Okay? What we want to happen is that the receiver gets it. The receiver understands your message fully. Yan po ang communication. Pag natanggap ng receiver at naiintindihan. And well, one of the best ways is to ask the receiver, ano po yung naintindihan nyo? What have you understood with what I have said? No, it's just like a teacher trying to teach a method, then the students are scratching their head. Ano kaya yung sinabi ni sir? Ano yung sinabi ni ma'am? Hindi ko naintindihan. No? So that means there is a failure to communicate there. No? So how would the sender also understand na gets ng tao, di ba? So baka hindi niya naiintindihan. So it has to be communicated in a way where it can be understood. So yes, we remember this first and foremost. It's really the outcome that counts. Naintindihan ba? Na gets ba nila yung offer mo? If you're selling something, you're selling a product, do they understand the mechanics, or is the mechanics that you are sending out too complicated? Hindi nila makuha, hindi nila magets, right? So every time I get a feedback that they have a hard time navigating through my website, for example, I take that seriously, because that means there's a barrier to communicating. There's a barrier for fulfilling the process. All right. So we don't blame the receiver. We adjust to the receiver, because that is our most important most important goal in communication. Naiintindihan ba ng kausap mo? That's why people shout at each other, di ba? Kasi hindi nagkakaroon ng pagkakaintindihan. Okay, so in that model, we have the noise in between. Meron siyang noise barriers sa message, sa channel, sa receiver, sa feedback, no, and the sender. And that noise is what we call the barriers to communication, which we will be outlining in a while. Okay? So ayan, so how do we communicate properly? How are we able to be able to communicate well, no? Tanggalin yung barriers to communication. Okay. So let me know, going back to our fired up questions. What do you think are the barriers to communication? All right. What are the things that hinder us in communicating, guys? And what are the noise? No, ano yung mga noise na napapaligiran kayo ng noise na hindi kayo nakakapag-communicate? There you go. All right. So the barriers are categorized into four areas. No, first may language barriers. Okay, obviously, lost in translation. Second is organizational barriers, something that has to do with your structure, something that has to do with how you are, um, shall we say, arranged in an organization, or how you are organized, basically how you are put into groups, or maybe how it is flowing through the chain of command. Yan. And of course, there are personal barriers as well. Yan. Pag personal barriers, it has something to do with attitude, and emotional barriers are also part of those things na kaya hindi nagkakaroon ng pagkakaintindihan. All right. So I'll be talking about these one by one. I hope you benefit from this by being aware of these barriers. So first, usapan po natin yung language barriers. It can be faulty translation. No, hindi maayos pagka-translate, kaya hindi naintindihan. Okay, so common to know, you're watching Netflix and you're watching a K-drama, for example, and the translations aren't capturing the emotions of what it's supposed to be. Now, marami akong nakikita yung sa Squid Game, merong konting faulty translation that doesn't really communicate what the script was telling them, right? And there can be wrongly expressed messages, no? Yung pag-type mo, naka all caps ka, that can happen as well, no? There are unclarified assumptions that you might be assuming okay lang sa kanya. Nung sinabi mo, hindi siya masasaktan sa joke mo, hindi siya masasaktan sa the way you say it, then you're assuming certain things that are okay with the receiver, but yun pala offensive na sa kanya. Pero yung assumption mo, okay lang yun, nagets na niya yun, pero hindi niya nagets. Ikaw lang nakakagets. You're the only one who understands it, and therefore, these assumptions are not actually clarified. Okay, and of course, use of technical language, marami pong jargons that you might want to communicate with your crowd, pero yung binebentahan mo, for example, hindi niya hindi niya maintindihan yung mga technical stuff, no? Hindi niya maintindihan yung, for example, the word drop shipping, baka hindi niya na-gets yun, no? For example, the word, we have to be uh, in your language, in your own businesses, mayroong mga sarili talagang mga technical languages that. Yeah. So, for example, in WordPress, no, din sa ating website development, there can be tech language there like permalink. Ayan. Sarili lang nakakapag-intindi, no? So it's called technical babble, no? Technical babble. BABBLE. So these are some of the language barriers that we can have, no? Next, organizational barriers. Baka lang the organization is very complex, masyadong maraming taong kailangan ipa-approve, that can hinder communication. And of course, organizational policies can be sometimes outdated, and therefore nawawala, nahihirapan pag-communicate yung feedback. It's good top to down, it's there, but going back, no, feedback, it's very difficult because of the organizational structure. That can happen as well. Walang way for the top people to understand what's happening down there. Okay. Another is personal barriers. It can be barriers related to superiors. No, there's an attitude of superiority, superiors. No, there's like a lack of confidence in subordinates, and a shortage of time. Parang parating busy, and therefore the communication isn't good, and there's a lack of attention, perhaps, in terms of listening to the people below in the organization. And there can be also barriers related to subordinates, which they're just afraid to express their emotions. They're afraid to express their intentions because they might get in trouble. Okay, so these are personal barriers that can happen as well in an organization. And of course, emotional barrier, basically attitude of a person. parang mahirap kausap, mahirap katrabaho, ayaw makinig. Now, these are some of the things that can that can that can have, people who are just unwilling to listen. All right, so these are some of the things that are the barriers, so we can review them. So again, there can be language barriers. Okay, anything that has to do with the written word, the spoken word, the technicalities, maybe culturally, it's also there. Organizational barriers, personal barriers, emotional barriers are also there. So, having said those barriers, let's now discover how we can overcome these barriers to communication, diba? So, let's find out and let's all get fired up to overcome these things. Now, if you're fired up, no, if you're fired up to learn these 7 ways, pakilagay na lang dyan sa ating comment section. Fired up to communicate. All right. No, fired up to communicate. Let's go, guys. Let's wait for those who are here, ayan, to comment this while I'll write this down in the banners. Okay, fired up to communicate. Ayan. There you go. No, fired up to communicate. Sino-sino na ang nandito sa ating Fired Up Live show? If one of you comments, fired up to communicate, let's go. Ayan, itutuloy ko na tong pag-share o pagbahagi sa ating 7 ways to overcome barriers to communication. All right. Cool. Thanks, Fritzy, for tagging your friends. All right. Hey, what's up? Marichu Meneses is here, fired up to communicate. Yes, yes, yes. Who else is here? Ayan. All right. So, hello to everyone who's watching on Facebook and, of course, on YouTube. All right. Great, great. So, si Fritzy is also fired up to communicate. Ayan, ayan. So, thank you, guys. Keep your comments coming. And let's all get fired up today in our session. Okay, so 7 ways to overcome barriers to communication. Number 1, the first way to overcome those barriers, mga faulty languages or having emotional barriers, all those 4 barriers that I just mentioned. First is to make sure that you have a clarity, no? You have clarity of ideas. Whether it's communicating about your brand, your product, it's communicating your concept, dapat clear siya. Hindi siya, kung ikaw yung nag-explain, naguguluhan ka, how much more for the one receiving it, right? It's like, remember when you were in college, you were reporting something you didn't understand fully. De lalo yung nakikinig, hindi nila naiintindihan, right? So, this is really important. And how do you have clarity of ideas? You have to communicate it in a very simple way, in a very structured way, maybe in 3 points, okay? So, you can explain something very complex, pero kung wala kang structure sa pag-explain mo, people will not get it. No? So, I see this in some of the homilies of some priests. They share 3 points, and usually people remember it. And when they communicate that, there is a clarity of idea. Okay. Another way to have clarity of idea is to have a sequence of presenting it. Maybe you can present the problem first, then you present the solution, then you present the call to action. Very simple, no? Problem. Ano yung problema? What are you trying to solve? No? Then the solution. What are 3 to 5 steps that you can present to your people that they can, of course, follow? And call to action is an encouragement, is a clear thing that you want to do. So if you communicate this way, maiiwasan yung miscommunication. Again, you have to understand. Ikaw mismo, you have to understand what you're communicating. Because if you don't, then how much more for the ones receiving them? Okay? So you have to have this clarity of ideas. Make it simple, make the complex into something that can be understood. Okay, that's first way to overcome the barriers to communication. The second is dapat kompleto yung message. Now, if you're communicating something, then you miss out some points, then it's gonna be hard. For example, you're organizing an event, then hindi kompleto, walang oras, walang address, walang link, ayan, kulang yung message nyo. At pag kulang yan, there will be people asking. There will be people saying, how do we get there? What time is it? How do we sign up for it? So make sure when you communicate something, meron bang nami-miss out na detalye. Okay? So the completeness of message helps you overcome the barriers. Okay, and having a complete message can also mean that you have also contemplated, no? Meron kang parang checklist. What should I be telling the people? What should I do so that they do not only get clarity of my ideas pero walang kulang, no? Walang kulang yung aking mga sinabi sa kanya. So you plan out what you will tell people. Have a draft. No, that's why an advantage of writing your message down before communicating it, drafting it, is that you get to have some time contemplating on it, no, and be able to review it rather than just go outright and tell it to people. You wing it out, yan, meron kang mamimiss out na tapos may maaalala ka bigla, oy, baka ako makalimutan, ganyan ganyan. So magulo po siya, no, kulang-kulang siya. Okay, so let's strive for completeness of message. That's the second way to really have successful communication. The third is, and I think one of the most important parts of this seven-step process or seven ways of overcoming communication barriers is understanding the receiver. And the way to do this is really to listen, na makinig. Pag hindi hindi tayo nag-take time to understand the receiver, then oh man, whatever we prepared to communicate or to say, hindi, malo-lost in translation yan. No? So let's apply it to different aspects. Number one, maybe you're giving a talk and you're giving a talk to a certain group of people. Usually, tinatanong ko talaga, ano yung profile ng mga kausap ko? What are their expectations? Why did they come to the talk? Why are they here? No? If you're offering an opportunity, what are these people looking for? What have they been told? Ano yung sitwasyon ng buhay nila? So pag kilala nyo yung profile nila, alam nyo yung pains ng receiver, alam nyo yung what they have come here for, their expectations, then the better. Okay? So understand them. In marketing, we call it avatar. No? Intindihin mo yung target person mo, yung target audience mo, yung avatar. And if you do that, then you'll be able to communicate better and be more relevant to them. So, in the same way, pag sa bahay, no, you want to understand the receiver, your family member, yung anak mo. No, minsan, we if us parents communicate to our children, then we scratch our heads, di ko naiintindihan yung anak ko. Baka hindi tayo nakikinig. No, baka we're not taking time to listen, but we keep on advising and advising. But they really haven't had time to tell us kasi siguro natatakot, siguro they just wanna keep it to themselves. Okay? So to be effective parents, we have to understand our children better. Now, they go through different stages of life, and sometimes we tend to impose our maturity on their age. No? We expect what we expect of ourselves, pero sila nasa edad pa lang na nagdi-discover pa sa buhay. No? So we have to understand them, especially if they're teenagers. Okay, understanding the receiver is very important. Where else? No, in the organization, if you're talking to management, then understand where management is coming from. Well, if you're presenting something, what do they want to see in your presentation? Ano? Gusto ba nila itong mga detalye na to, or do they want to go straight to the point? Be able to have a short presentation pero kompleto. Yan, no? So, understand who you're talking to. Seek first to understand, then be understood. Okay? So, that is the principle of Stephen Covey in one of his 7 habits. No? Seek first to understand, then be understood. Kasi sometimes we talk to people and we just want to share our ideas. No? Pinapasalita natin pero excited tayo na sabihin yung ideas natin. And that's the problem. They talk, but our intention is not to understand. They talk, but our intention is to reply. Okay, so do you see the difference now, right? If they talk, our intention should be to understand. Again, usually they talk and our intention is to reply, not to listen. So that's where really miscommunication happens. That's the heart of it. So we have to understand the receiver. Number 4, consistency of message. Kasi kung paiba-iba yung sinasabi natin, no? In one interview you say this, in another interview you say this, no? Or last week you talked to somebody, you said this to this person, then next week nagbago yung pananaw mo, nagbago yung proposal mo, iba-iba, no? Over time people won't trust you because paiba-iba yung approach, iba-iba yung mensahe. Parang last week ito yung sinabi, this week iba naman. Ano ba talaga, right? So if there's inconsistency of messaging, there's going to be a miscommunication. There's going to be a loss of trust. There's going to be a big problem with it. Okay, so we have to be consistent with our messaging. Whew! Ayan, that's number 4, guys. So far, what have we gone through for those who just came in? Okay, first, to communicate successfully, clarity of ideas. Second is completeness of message. Third is understanding the receiver. Fourth is consistency of message. And 2 more, feedback is very important. That's the 5th part of successful communication. Have a venue where people can respond. Have a venue where people can say what they think, can share their opinions, kasi so that there will be a full communication loop. No, how do we encourage feedback? No, talk to somebody one-on-one. Ganun. Can I ask for your opinion? What do you think of this project? Feedback. No, you can have survey forms. Feedback. Okay, you can have a focus group discussion. No, you don't assume that this is the problem. You organize uh, a certain number of people who can give you relevant ideas and feedback or opinions. Now, so, ayan, now, feedbacking is very important to successfully communicate. Number 6 is selection of proper channel. Ayan, mahalaga po ito. Kasi baka wrong venue, no? Or wrong tool to use. Now, you're gonna say something very personal pero tinext mo lang. Okay? So, ang text can be misinterpreted into a lot of ways. Baka you need to be present there, speaking face to face, because emotionality is important. Na sincerity should be heard. So baka magandang face to face. Pero if you're trying to communicate like instructions, baka magandang nakasulat lahat para pulido. No, it's complete. Okay, so what channel are you gonna communicate your message? You know, is it through written? Is it through face to face? Is it through online? Ganun ba? Na what's the best way to go about in telling everybody your message? So that's number 6, guys. So in the social media world, iba-iba yung channel. May YouTube, may Facebook, may Twitter, may Instagram. And usually the big question is, where can you find your market? Where can you find the people that you're supposed to bring your message to? Where can you find the people where they are looking for your products? Okay? So baka nasa Shopee lang sila, nasa Lazada lang sila, but you're selling somewhere else, right? So yeah, no, selection of proper channel is very important to bring your message out there. Ayan. Number 7 is a simple organizational structure. You might want to do a reorg. You might want to rethink about structures that have existed for 10 years, and somehow there's mabagal yung daloy ng communication, no, ng mobilization. Then you want to simplify it. You want to flatten your structure kasi baka masyadong mataas yung structure, no? Coming from the top person, may mga 10 layers pa bago makarating dun sa talagang target market, talagang makarating dun sa mga tao na you should be talking to. Ang layo, no? So the further down, no, the more communication is watered down, 'di ba? I don't know if you played that team building game na pass the message. Have you played that, pass the message? Yun yung isa sa mga pinakamatandang or pinaka-classic and basic team building activities. Maybe you've done it more than 10 times already in your life. I don't know. But for me, madalas po yan. And the lesson always there is, pagdating dun sa nagbigay ng message, iba na yung message. Iba na yung na ipasa balik, no? Or mabagal o mabilis ba? How does the message flow? Baka kasi maraming layers of communication. So the way really here is to simplify your organizational structure, flatten flatten the structure, or have some means of communication where it can reach from the top people all the way down, and vice versa, from yung mga nasa baba can easily communicate top on top. Okay, so simplify it, and I think the internet has made it easier these days. But again, review your structure. Maybe that's where the miscommunication happens. That's when meron kang top 7 directives for your group, tapos nung tinanong mo yung pinakatao na dapat nag-execute ng directives na yon sa baba, hindi nila alam, hindi nila memorize, hindi nila gets, or hindi pa nila nakukuha yung mensahe. All right, so that's number 7. Okay, so again, these are the 7 ways. Let me just make that a little bit bigger. And clarity of ideas, completeness of message, understanding the receiver, consistency of message, feedback, selection of proper channel, and simple organizational structure. That's how it is. That ito yung pito na ways or steps to overcome barriers to communication. Let me know, guys, which of the 7 that you see here is relevant to you. Which of the 7 that you see here is useful for you guys? Let me know there in the comment section. Keep your comments coming. I see some of the comments are already pouring in. Ayan, yan po yung 7. Or you can, of course, reflect on the fired up questions. What do you think are the barriers to communication in your own way, no? In your own opinion? How can we build an environment where people listen and understand each other? Ayan. And yes, go. Ayan, so meron na tayo dito, no? Si Christian is also here. Hey, what's up, Jerth? Thanks for being here. Nerissa, welcome to the Fired Up Live Show. It's your first time. Rommel, na late. Okay lang, bro. May replay naman. Ayan, fired up pa rin si Rommel. Cool. So let me know your thoughts on this. No, I'm sure hindi kayo alien to being encountering this problem. You're not alien to encountering this problem of communication. Meron po tayo niyan na napapagdaanan po natin yan, if not on a daily basis, right? So let me know your thoughts. Keep your comments coming, and we can discuss that in our fired up interaction. Okay. Ayan. So yes, you can go to kirbyliaban.com/communication and get the PDF copy of this week's fired up topic. Okay, so go there, kirbyliaban.com/communication. All right. So for Jerth, a clarity of ideas. Mostly the people that I'm communicating is from the Visayas and Mindanao regions. They can't easily express their side using their own language. Yes, I myself, I'm from the Visayas and Mindanao region. I grew up in Davao. I was born in Cebu. Ayan, no? So when I migrated to Manila, there are some cultural barriers also. Maybe in the way we speak, it can be misconstrued as pagalit, no? But yes, over time, ano naman, may assimilation, may learning. Yes, and it has to have what we call a gelling in, no? Dapat nag-gel in by and by yung grupo. Kaya, team building sessions are vital. Team building sessions are important. Building relationships and friendships are important to have that trust, because cultural barriers can be there. Language barriers can be there as well. Hey, thank you, Jerth. Yes, that can be a hindrance. So, sabi ni Jerth nga, dapat clear, no? Clarity of ideas, and of course, having the receiver in mind. If they did not receive it out of context, baka out of context tayo, then baka mali yung ma-communicate sa kanila, o mali yung pagkaintindi nila, right? And it's the task of the communicator, it's the task of the sender to always correct it. Kasi sila yung recipients eh. Okay. For Ayan and Bren, no? Yes, barriers of communication, different age group. Yeah, thank you for adding this. Diba? In the workplace, may millennials, meron ding mga baby boomers. Ayan. So, may mga lingwahe na hindi na na-gets, na hindi na nakuha, no? Yung pag sinabing G. Oh, game na pala, no? Pero hindi natin naiintindihan. G, what does G mean? Gets, no? Or game. Ayan. So, I'm dealing with a lot of millennials lately because of my Fired Up University. Ayan, I slowly I'm trying to understand what they mean with certain things. Then yan, pag nakuha na, yan, communication becomes better and better. Yes, so different age group, generation gap can also be that barrier. And but it's a matter of listening. It's a matter of asking. Yan, actually pag nahihiya tayong magtanong what certain things mean, diyan nagkakaroon ng miscommunication. No? So if we don't ask, if we assume, then there will be a breakdown of communication. So it's good to converse, it's good to dialogue, it's good to ask. Ayan, especially with those with the different age gaps or different age groups. Hey, thank you so much for this, Ayan Bran. And yes, different nationalities. Yan din. No? So, kailangan matuto tayo how to deal with a multicultural group. Ayan, so I've been through different missions. I've been through 36 countries, and I've practically met every nationality, perhaps not really all, but mostly. Ayan, so from the Spanish speaking, from the French to the African groups. Ayan, no? Mostly Filipino, but Asian groups as well. Ayan, no? So different nationalities. I've been to mission in China as well. Ayan, I should understand where they're coming from, their cultural background, what is meaningful for them, what makes them listen. Okay, so yes, uh, the key really here is dialogue. The key is to be curious about how they understand things, and number one, that builds communication because they see that we're humble enough to understand what they want. We're humble enough to understand um, what how they see things, right? So there is like that humility of being able to solicit ideas, okay, and them also understanding us. No? So if we take time to listen, then they will also take time to listen to us. No? So it's really a give and take relationship. Yes, Ian Bren, no? Thank you so much for this. Awesome. Great. So, hey, thanks for being active today. Keep your comments coming, keep your ideas coming. Again, you can download this session here in at kirbyliaban.com/communication. And of course, if you want to support the Fired Up Life show, you can do it in four ways. First is you can be a Fired Up patron, which is my standard way of sustaining the show. Second, you can send stars. You might see a star button there. Third is be a supporter through Facebook, and there's a link there, facebook.com/become a supporter /Kirbyliaban. Ayan. And you can also send support through GCash through 0917-590-6665. Ayan, bago lang po yan, GCash. Because I've been contemplating really about that if I should put it or not. So finally, somebody influenced me to do it. So we'll see what happens here. All right, so yes, support the Fired Up Life show para marami pa tayong magawang topics that can help you get fired up each and every single day. Ayan, so support the show, guys. You can be a patron. Again, these are some of our patrons who've been supporting us and Facebook supporters. And halo-halo na po yan. Facebook patron and Facebook supporters. Kasi bago lang po yung Facebook supporter dito sa ating Fired Up Life show. Yes, yes. Again, go to patreon.com/fireduplife. You can send stars. And of course, the 365 Fired Up days ay sold out na po. No? Sold out na po siya. I'm reserving a few copies because I'll be giving talks to certain groups. Ayan, pero officially wala na pong kopya si 365 Fired Up Days. A handful na lang, no? A handful that I've reserved for my talks. So yes, you can get the ebook at firedupcourses.com/365 Fired Up Days. That's where you can find that book right now. Awesome. All right. So hey, sabi ni Rommel, way of life, no? Sabi ni Brother Rommel, yes, that's how we can overcome. You have a united way of life, and same principles, same beliefs, same understanding of certain things. Then you'll be able to unite your thoughts and ideas, and even your practices. Ayan, let me look at my comments as well. Maybe yes. There, no, I thank you so much, Jert. Thank you for this. Hindi lang lumalabas dito sa ating uh, sa ating comment section, no. But hey, thank you so much for your comments here, and Ian and Brent as well. Ayan, awesome. So, oh yeah, hey, Thanks, Rommel, for sending stars, 50 stars, and Jert for sending 75 stars, and Ian Bren for sending 50 stars. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. This is our Fired Up Live show. We started with a little bit of glitch with Facebook not prompting to broadcast the first time. But ayan, nakabawi po tayo. Salamat sa Diyos. And hey, thank you. And see you on the next Fired Up Live show on Thursday. All right. So bye. See you then. Keep being fired up.